I was guilty of being a Chumley hater. To me, he was lazy and grumpy, and in Yu-Gi-Oh! GX, I didn't feel like he added anything to the show. So whenever he was on screen, or there was an episode dedicated to Chumley, I got annoyed. I didn't like him. However, as I grew older, this opinion began to change. I think as we grow into adults, we begin to understand characters a lot more, since our lives and our situations change, and we have a lot more experience, and we can empathize or relate to characters a lot more than we did when we were kids. Chumley Huffington is already a member of Slifer Red when Jaden and Cyrus enter for their first year. Now, Chumley was introduced to us as a hater. He was the opposite to Jaden's light, as Jaden is an optimist and looks to the positive. Chumley does the opposite and looks to the worst possible scenario. Now, Cyrus at this point is a pendulum and swings back and forth from negative to positive, usually leaning towards the negative.
Chumley said we Reds were the worst. Forget that. I mean, red's a sweet color.
But Cyrus has yet to be moulded. Unlike Jaden and Chumley, who at the start anyway, are very set in their ways. Jaden towards the light, and Chumley, if I'm being dramatic here, is in the darkness. Which is why it's so important for Cyrus to spend time with Jaden, as otherwise I could quite easily see Cyrus having the same negative attitude towards life as Chumley did. So the trio do in a weird way complement each other, with Jaden doing most of the heavy lifting, as Cyrus is naturally a pessimist at his core. But Jaden being a bottomless well of energy and positivity, the chemistry between the three kind of works. Now this may be a weird comparison to make, but Chumley is a stereotype of a failure redemption story. It kinda reminds me of Luke Skywalker in the movie Rise of Skywalker. In this movie, Rey finds Luke, an old man who had given up and pretended like he didn't care anymore, and she has to slowly bring him out of his shell, because deep down we all knew he did, regardless of his failures in reviving the Jedi Order. Now there are probably countless better examples than the one I used, but the point I want to hone in on is the caring part. Deep down, Chumley gives out all the signs that he cares. However, because he's been laughed at or humiliated in the past, he tries to bury those feelings and puts up a wall. Logically, if he really doesn't care, nothing will affect him. However, his actions betray him. Why would he still be at Duel Academy if he really didn't care? Why does he warn Jaden about facing Chaz in an illegal duel after hours? Chumley failed his first year of Duel Academy, however decides to retake his freshman year. If he doesn't care, why not go home? We already know by watching the series that he has a successful family business at home that he could easily join. I have a theory that Chumley actually started Duel Academy a bright young freshman with a positive outlook. However, Chumley was never skilled at dueling, and he probably looked a little peculiar compared to the rest of the students, which meant he didn't fit in. A lot of the reputation and respect in this show is built on your dueling ability, and if it isn't at a moderate level, then you're usually open to ridicule, with even professors at the academy taking shots at you. Now in his first year, Chumley didn't have a support system like he did with Jaden and Cyrus. There was no one in his corner, with Chumley constantly failing in duels and with other students calling him a failure. I believe Chumley began to believe that he was a failure, and a once caring, compassionate duelist became what he is today, a negative, grumpy kid who would rather not try as he expects to fail. Now this is actually quite relatable. A popular example would be a content creator. However, this applies to all forms of life, where we allow other people's opinion to dictate how we feel and impact us at a level which makes us change, and not always in a positive way. I think all someone needs is someone to believe in us, and I think Chumley finds that in Jaden and Cyrus. Without them, I wonder where Chumley would have ended up. Maybe working for his father's hot sauce company, which is actually a sake company, giving up on his dreams and leading a life he doesn't even want, but has no other choice. Now an episode which really hit home for Chumley's character development was episode 9, titled Family Business. Now by this point, Jaden, Cyrus and Chumley had become quite close. Jaden and Cyrus had managed to break down Chumley's walls. I think Chumley might have seen something in Jaden that resonated within himself deep down, and he was probably looking for an excuse excuse to have faith again, which Jaden and Cyrus offered. Now what I find really interesting in this episode is the fact that Chumley's father hears about Chumley flunking his first year and comes to take his son back. However, when we see his father, a lot of things start to make sense. First thing we can say is that Chumley defo wasn't adopted, but apart from his nose, Chumley shared no resemblance to his father. Chumley's father was in shape. Cyrus even described him as a bodybuilder, but it wasn't just that. Chumley's father was a champion in his own right in Duel Monsters, and he also had the personality and the inner belief in himself, something that Chumley lacked. Now to me, after meeting his father, it was quite clear that Chumley was here at Duelist Academy to be like his father. However, Chumley failed in all the areas that his father succeeded in, which makes me feel like Chumley is trying to live up to standards that were set by his father. Up until this moment, I don't think we really knew Chumley's goals and ambitions. We kinda just thought he wanted to be a professional duelist. But if now that we find out his father's dream for his son was Chumley's goal, then I don't think Chumley really put thought into what he wanted to do in the future. He's kinda just following the blueprint set by his father. Now in the end, Mr. Huffington decided against removing Chumley from the school after seeing the friends he had made at the academy. However, one thing even his father hadn't seen in Chumley was a spark which required to be a good duelist. However, decided to leave Chumley in that positive environment, and he realized that even though he may not become a professional duelist one day, he could see that his son was happy and trusted Chumley enough to allow Chumley to follow his own goals when he discovers them. Now this again feels very relatable. I feel like that in life, we get a lot of outside pressures on what we're supposed to do with our futures. I think a lot of that comes down to our own family and friends, and even though they want the best for us, they normally pressure you to go down a certain route, which I think was the case for Chumley, which is why I think they brought Chumley's character development to its peak in episode 50. You see, Chumley entered a card designing contest for Pegasus, and something Chumley was very skilled in was art and design, something we never knew about him, and Chumley was offered a job by Pegasus at Industrial Illusions, which was a dream come true. Now this I feel like was a good moment to divert Chumley from Duel Academy, because as we already knew, he wasn't having much luck in progressing, and as much as he improved at dueling, it seemed like an inevitable fact that he wasn't on the same level as the other duelists, and it really wasn't his main passion to begin with. So providing Chumley a job where he still works with monster cars and allows him to design and create them was a very smart play by the writers, as it kinda shows that everyone is destined for something, even if you don't know it yet. So maybe the doors to being a professional duelist closed for him, but another door opened because of that. I think there's a lot of life lessons we can learn from Chumley, which like I said, I only began to see now. Guys, let me know what your thoughts are on Chumley, because I would love to hear them in the comments down below. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe.